I am mourning in Jerusalem. Jerusalem woke up that morning with the golden sunlight hitting its stone walls in silence. In the narrow alleys of the old city, life hadn't started moving yet. Only the soft whispers of prayers carried by the wind could be heard. In this sacred city, everyone had a story. But no one knew the story of the homeless man named Yitzhak. Yitzhak lived on a bench just a few streets away from the western wall. The sleeve of his coat was torn, his beard matted and his eyes clouded. His only meal for days had been a discarded bun and some stale water from a plastic bottle. People passed by him, turning their heads away. The hurried streets of Jerusalem acted as if he didn't exist. But that morning, everything was about to change. Inside the armored vehicle, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was heading toward the old city with his convoy. As security guards escorted the vehicle through the tight streets, Netanyahu stared out the window. He thought of his childhood among the stone walls of Jerusalem. Even back then, poverty lingered in the alleys, but never this invisible. Suddenly, a man caught his eye, curled up at a corner. Worn coat, empty coffee cup beside him. Netanyahu's gaze locked on the figure. "Who is that man?" he asked his driver. The guard glanced and shrugged. "Just a homeless guy. He's always sitting there in the mornings." Netanyahu hesitated. A strange feeling stirred inside him. He ordered the convoy to stop. The first encounter. Yitzhak noticed the convoy halt. He was used to the noise, usually a politician or tourist group. But this time, someone stepped out directly. A man in a suit, serious eyes, familiar face. "Hello," the man said. Yitzhak looked up, squinting against the sunlight. He couldn't quite recognize him. "I'm Benjamin Netanyahu," the man said, extending his hand. Yitzhak froze. This had to be a joke. "Oh no. I've seen you on TV," he muttered. "But why did you stop here?" Netanyahu sat beside him on the bench. The bodyguards were stunned. This had never happened before. "I see you here every morning," he said. "What's your name?" "Yitzhak." "Why are you living here, Yitzhak?" Yitzhak fell silent for a long time. Finally, with trembling lips, he replied, "I'm a war veteran. Got wounded in the 1982 Lebanon War. When I returned, I lost my job, then my house. Then my family." Netanyahu took a deep breath. The pain and depth in Yitzhak's eyes hit him hard. The birth of a plan. That evening, silence dominated the Prime Minister's residence. Netanyahu retreated to his room and looked out the window toward the glowing lights of Jerusalem. Yitzhak's face hovered in his thoughts. This country shouldn't abandon a man who had once served it so selflessly. The next day, he dictated a note to his private secretary. "We must do something for Yitzhak. Not just a home, but a life that restores his dignity." Yet another idea had already begun to take shape in his mind, symbolic, powerful, unforgettable. "We'll give Yitzhak a luxury car," he said aloud. "Not just to provide comfort, but to open the eyes of the public. That car will symbolize that the invisible man is now seen." The proposal. 3 days later, Netanyahu returned to the same street. This time without guards, dressed simply. Yitzhak was still there, bundled in a ragged coat and an old sack over his knees against the chill. Netanyahu approached him, holding a cup of coffee and a pastry. "Good morning, Yitzhak. I brought breakfast." Yitzhak was stunned. A prime minister doesn't forget a homeless man. Netanyahu smiled. "I didn't forget. This time I came with something more." He pulled an envelope from his coat and showed Yitzhak a photo. "This will be your new car. A Mercedes-Benz EQS Electric, brand new. Fully yours." Yitzhak stared at the photo. His hands trembled. "Oh. I can't even drive. What am I going to do with this car?" Netanyahu placed a hand on his shoulder. "This is not just a car. It's a symbol of your worth, your story, your identity. People will see you behind that wheel and ask, who is this man?" What happened to him and how did he rise again? That's when real change begins. 6. The delivery. 5 days later, in a quiet Jerusalem parking lot, selected members of the press gathered. There was no official government announcement, just whispers of something extraordinary. In the center stood a gleaming, black Mercedes-Benz. Nearby stood Yitzhak, cleaned up, nervous, his beard trimmed, his clothes new but modest. Netanyahu arrived, holding a plaque and a set of keys. Today we are not just handing over a car, he said. We are repaying a moral debt. Yitzhak fought for Israel. Israel abandoned him. But today, we correct that mistake. The crowd fell silent. Netanyahu handed over the keys. Yitzhak's hands shook. Applause broke out. 7. The media storm. The next morning's headlines were explosive. A luxury car for a forgotten hero, Netanyahu's bold gesture. A Mercedes and a message, Israel's face of change. Homeless no more, the veteran who got the keys to dignity. Social media lit up. Some called it a publicity stunt. Others wept. A national TV network aired a full interview. Yitzhak said, "It wasn't just a car. It was eye contact. It was respect. For the first time, someone in power looked at me and said, 'You matter.'" 8. A new life. Yitzhak was no longer on the streets. He wasn't living in the car either. The government had provided him with temporary housing. But Yitzhak had transformed the luxury car into something unexpected. Each morning, people saw him driving through Jerusalem. In the trunk, blankets, food packages, books. He had turned his Mercedes into a mobile aid station for other homeless people. One day, he had the side window painted. Help the angels of the streets. 9. Netanyahu's visit. A month later, Netanyahu made a quiet visit. The car was parked in a shaded corner. Inside were soup bowls and empty paper cups. Yitzhak was playing with a child. The mother stood nearby, eyes full of tears. Netanyahu asked, "This car is yours now. But I see others find comfort in it too." Yitzhak smiled. "That day, you didn't just hand me keys, you gave hope wheels. I'm just the driver." Epilogue, more than a car. Yitzhak had become a symbol. His story wasn't just about receiving a luxury car. It was about a country seeing its reflection in someone it had forgotten. Years later, when Netanyahu recalled the story, he would always say, "Some people spend millions trying to change the world. Sometimes, all it takes is to look someone in the eye and say, 'You matter.'"